Okay, this is our Mangrove Jack IPA #1. We pretty much kept it the way it was. Didn't really modify anything. The only exception is I did put a little bit of amylase, which is an enzyme to help break things down and make sure that we got the best breakdown of the sugars with the yeast. Came with, I believe it was Empire yeast. And now we're getting ready to dry hop. Dry hopping is super easy. We're adding 12.5 grams, which comes in this little 50-gram bag, 12.5 grams of Columbus, Brewer's Gold, Admiral, and Target hops, which is approximately 2 ounces American, just a hair less. What we're doing is we're taking, oops, had to clean it, star sands and everything, so. And then what we did is we used cooking string, sterilized that, and that's going to sit inside the keg. Super, super simple. Already star sand that, drip dry. Oh, love the smell of the hops. Okay, so we're simply going to dump that in here. If there's any more in there. Okay, that's it. It's literally a hair, I think it's 1.90 ounces approximately. This twists on. Mine's bent a little because I thought it pulled off, but you twist it on. Once you twist it on, show you a little trick here. I'm going to flip it upside down so it doesn't fall. Literally take the keg, which has already been sterilized. Lots of moving parts. And we just lower it down in there. In there. And seal her up. All good. Okay. Let's get this out of the way. Now what you're thinking is, wait a minute, we got a lot of air in there. And we do. So, grab our CO2. Purge the keg. And I don't know if you can hear that, but we have a leak. So, bring it down here. Pop it back open. Show the rubber piece, the seal. Lower it back down again. Make sure it's all nice and centered. It's one of the keys is if you have it centered, it's probably going to seal. Pop it back down. Okay. Better to have a CO2 leak now than later. I've lost enough CO2 thanks to leaks. I don't hear a leak now. Good thing. And we're under pressure. Let that fill up a little bit of CO2. Let the oxygen out. Nice hop aroma that comes with it. Sadly, losing a little bit of the aroma. It's okay, not a big deal. At least I'm enjoying the smell. Someday YouTube will have smell-o-vision. Okay, here we go. Sadly, most people will take that in a bad direction. Okay, so we're ready. Pop the top. I double-checked the gravity. Our tilt hydrometer showed 1.012. Original gravity was 1.056. We did a regular hydrometer reading because I found a weakness with the tilt hydrometer. Tilt hydrometers don't do well when they get a bunch of, I guess you'd call it, gunk from the yeast and everything breaking down. It's got a big pile of gunk floating on top of it, weighing it down, which is, I figured it might give us false readings, and it did by just a little bit. The actual reading, according to the other hydrometer, is 1.010. So instead of at 5.64, we're a little bit closer, maybe 5.7 something, which is great. A little drier. I'm good with that. Okay, kick the pump on. Remember, all we're doing is pumping water from there to there. Nothing special. Then we move this over here. Drop it on in. Start our pump. See the beer flowing, and once the beer gets over to the other keg, we pop it off, pop it on this keg, grab our pressure relief valve. You can hear the air. And this stuff smells good, and a little sampling, it tastes great. It's going to be better once it's carbonated and dry hopped, but doing good right now. If it comes out half as good as it smells and tastes right now, I'll probably be buying a lot more of these. They are a great deal, especially when you can modify the hell out of them and do it in a matter of maybe 20 minutes, an hour. I mean, total time, maybe an hour. It's not like a regular brew day. Now with modifying it, of course, you might add another hour because you're probably going to soak some grains or something, or even make a hop tea with some additional hops. Change your dry hops. The modifications are pretty much endless. It's up to your imagination. Keep in mind this is 5 gallons, American IPA number 1 from Mangrove Jacks. Moving it over here so we can dry hop. Kind of looks like the yeast took a dump on top of it, so not in a good way. The yeast on the bottom is pretty compact. That's one of the reasons I wanted to use the yeast that came with it. The fluctuation was high, which is what I wanted. When we go to do the pale ale, we're not going to use the yeast that comes with it. I'm not a big fan of, well actually that's the Empire Ale yeast. I forgot the yeast that was on this one. Don't even remember anymore. I'll have to put it in the notes. So we're going to use the West Coast because the Empire doesn't have quite as dry. It leaves too much residual sugars for me. It's just not something I care for. It might work well for a nice sweeter beer. We're about halfway, a little more than halfway done. What we'll do is once this is done, we'll let it sit for another week, at least 5-6 days minimum. Dry hopping, and then we'll simply move it from this keg to another keg without the hops, and we'll add a little bit of the plain gelatin, about a teaspoon of it, to clarify, and it'll help pull out any kind of sediment that's still floating around out of suspension. Not really looking for a super clear beer, but it's pretty. Oh, we're full. I was wondering why I wasn't doing it. Okay. And that's why the valve's there, to keep you from going crazy. I made a little mess. I make enough messes on my own without meaning to, so it's not that bad. Pop this off. Take the air relief valve off if we can. There we go. Okay, just a little bit of cleanup up there. Not a big deal. But this keg is definitely full. Very full. And then as you saw, we got a little bit of air in there. Simple fix. CO2. You can hear it pressurizing. Another little trick is kicking your carbonation or your PSI up to about 20 or 30 to leave it there for a few days and then bring it back down to where you want it to really get the pressure up. And that's it. Dry hopping time. Let it sit and wait. And once it's done, we'll move it and carbonate and taste it. It's time to transfer the Mangrove Jacks IPA number 1. It's been dry hopping for, it's going to do about 5 to 7 days. I think we're going on about day 8. We're simply going to move it from here, or actually move it from here to here. I rotated them. And this one I've already purged your CO2, as you can hear. And then we're going to put some CO2 on here just to help push it on over here. I'm going to connect it here. Connect this side first. There we go. Then we'll come over here and connect it. It's going to slow down once the pressure or balances, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to need a little CO2 over here. Drop this thing way down to about 5 psi. 5 psi should be more than enough. Down here. This is the Duralock, Duratight, whatever you want to call them. I like them a lot. I was a little gun shy at first just because I was afraid they were going to leak, and they don't. I like the stainless steel disconnects. I got those to replace the plastic ones. I like them a lot, although like this one's got a little bit of leak. They leak whenever, there we go. They're not super tight, so you got to be careful, and it's usually up here where you're connecting and you're twisting the Duralock on there. If you're not twisting it 100%, it may leak a little bit. Leaking can drive me nuts. I can't stand it. This is going to take a little while. Once it's done transferring, I've already pulled a little bit of it out of here because we put this in the kegerator last night to chill it before we transferred it. It's going to sit in here for about 2 weeks to get really well carbonated. But as most home brewers, we don't like waiting. So, SodaStream, the electric one, don't do it. The push or manual is awesome because it actually twists and seals. It doesn't just clamp. So this thing is under extreme pressure. While this is transferring, I'm going to see if I can't move this to a glass. As you'll hear me whenever I'm talking about brewing and brewing styles, ultimately you do what you want to do and you do it the way you want to do it. So they say don't use a frosted glass. Oh no, don't. I want a frosted glass. It's my house. I'm going to use a frosted glass. Okay, I'm going to set that out of the way. Lift this up. We're going to let the air out. I'm going to move it over here so I can see it. I know it right to the side, so you should be able to see it just fine here. I've been letting this sit for a few minutes, but I also went a little nuts with the CO2. So it's well carbonated. If it leaks a little, it leaks a little. We can clean it up. Not a big deal. These are the little SodaStream half liters. I'm not really trying to promote SodaStream per se, but you know, if it's a tool and it lets you do what you want to do, then so be it. There's a lot of tools out there to do this. This one just seems to be pretty efficient. It's not the best. They can always improve, but hey, I think we're just about there. Probably leaking a bit. Never open this at high speed. It will be like Mentos. Not quite that bad, but bad enough. So I say that and then I just say, I open it a little faster. Yeah, a little mess. Not too bad. I've made a lot bigger messes by accident, and that one was kind of intentional. Okay. And we're still foaming because I got the stupid straw in there. Never far from where I am, paper towels. Let's get this into a glass before I make a huge mess. Anybody who knows me knows I'm pretty good at making messes. Not an intentional thing, just like to get stuff done, and if it happens, it happens. Whoa. This is the Mangrove Jack's #1 IPA. That's what they call it. I guess they have different numbers. It's an American IPA from an Australian company. It appears that they've been making this stuff for a while down there, but it's kind of relatively new here, at least for me. I hadn't seen it before, not in the US at least. And I'm hoping to see a lot of their others. They have a red rye and some others. If this one's as good as it's been smelling, I would definitely like to experiment with a few more in between the all grains and some of the other experimental ones I have that I'm planning. I guess that's good enough for now. There we go. Hold it up here. A little hazy. It's got a little bit of something floating around. Not sure if it was from the hops that are in there or what. But we did put a 1/4 teaspoon of ascorbic acid, kind of a preservative, something I'm kind of playing with that I've been hearing good things about. Genius Brewing on YouTube mentioned it, and I've been reading about it for a while from time to time, so I figured I'd give it a shot. It is an IPA, so we have a little citrus in there anyways, and it's only going to give it some vitamin C, which is good for you. The other thing is I went from a half to a full teaspoon of Knox unflavored gelatin. You can use any brand, any kind you want. Doesn't matter, just unflavored is what you want. If you put Kool-Aid flavored in there, you're going to have a Kool-Aid IPA. If that's what you want, that's what you want. It's not what I want, but to each their own. Wow. It's only about 54 IBUs, but it kicks a little closer to maybe something I'm familiar around the 60s at least. I have had lower IBUs that have a nice bite to them, but it's usually something they've gone after with a very particular hop. But that's good. That's really good, actually. It's got a nice crisp bite, which something I don't always get in the beers that I want it. You don't want that in a stout, of course, but in a nice IPA, that's awesome. Remember too, we kicked the alcohol level up around, I want to say, closer to the 6.5 from the 5.4, just because we went from 6 gallons to 5 gallons. I'll put it in the description so that way we know exactly, since I'm kind of doing this from memory and my memory's not all that quick. It's there, it's just a little slower. Once this is done transferring, I'm going to get it in the keg, we'll get it carbonated, and then we'll do a finish at the end of the video just to show. It might be clearer when I'm done, but I don't expect it to taste much better. It's pretty damn good. My son brings over 1 gallon kegs and fills up here on my 5 gallon kegs. I think he's going to be wanting to fill up on this one quite a bit and share with his friends. Great IPA. We'll definitely be getting a few more, but what we'll do is see if we can't buy 1 or 2 more of these craft series Mangrove Jacks, and then when we get ready to do something, we'll actually modify it. Maybe pitch a different yeast, probably Mangrove Jack's yeast, but if not, I have a really cool yeast I've gotten recently from Omega, I believe. It's half Saison, half British, and it's supposed to give a little bit of a tropical flavor, but very dry, which sounds good to me. But yeah, I'm excited. Okay, it's time. Time to try the Mangrove Jack's #1 IPA. Now I did overcarb it a little bit in the beginning just to get it up to where it needed to be a little faster so I didn't have to wait. Nice head retention, definitely some foam. The carbonation's been good and we've reduced it. I might need to purge the keg a little bit more, but I gotta tell you, it smells great, it tastes great. I haven't had it in a few days, but my oldest came over and already took about 1.5 gallons, so. Yeah, it's very good. He left me his old keg and I gave him a slightly bigger keg. I know it's a kit, I know it's a bag, I know it's concentrated, but you can tell they did a lot of work to make sure that they preserved the hop flavors, the aromas. I mean, plus you're doing, what was it, almost 2 ounces, 50 grams of hops, dry hopping. It was at 4 different hops. I mean, clarification, great. I mean, it is a liquid, so probably a little easier to clarify. But just a really great beer for a kit, inexpensive, super easy to do. I mean, you can say you brewed beer, should we say, literally in maybe 20 minutes, half hour, worst case. Then, of course, you do have the fermentation and the dry hopping and then eventually carbonating. So it does take a little while. And keep in mind, too, the bags are designed for 6 gallons. So the alcohol content would have been about a whole solid point less. We dropped it down to 5 gallons because keg is 5 gallons and that's what I use. So I made it fit for what we were doing, and that was the only modification we made. I can tell you it's not going to last long. It's going to go very, very quickly. Thank you again for joining Bitter Reality Brewing. Don't forget, if you get a chance, hit the like, subscribe. Definitely appreciate it. Any suggestions, let me know. Thank you very much.